My name is Chef Ski, James Woroneski, and this is Cooking with Ski. If you are a soup and stew fan, you are about to get the ultimate upgrade today because I'm about to show you how to make one of the coolest recipes you'll ever see, Hungarian goulash. And the best part of it, it's delicious. Hungarian goulash is not your typical American beef stew. No, 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 it's not. We have a few more spices and ingredients that we're going to be adding into this. But when you think about a recipe that says someone's going to put all these ingredients in, summer it for a long period of time, and they're going to call it to a beef stew, we're going to be a little bit more involved in this. Because you know about me, I'm all about procedure. So what we're going to be doing in this recipe is that we're going to go ahead and extract flavor by ingredient. Which basically means that I'm going to be putting ingredients in, I'm going to be extracting all the flavors from that ingredient before I move to the next step or to the next ingredient. Then we're going to pull all the flavors out of that one. So we'll be building layers and layers and layers of flavor on top of each other. And then by the end of this recipe, this episode, we're going to be showing you how it actually comes out. So this is going to be one of the cool recipes that you want to go ahead and jot down. I'll be posting this up onto my website, onto my blog, and also to YouTube. So let's go ahead and get chopping. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started in chopping. First thing that we're going to do, this is the most important part of this Hungarian goulash, is we need to go ahead and start with our bacon. And there's some thick cut bacon I'm going to be working with, and we're just going to go ahead and start cutting this up. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to do it this way. It's usually better if you go ahead and leave it in the fridge. I've let this sit out for a little bit. So it's just making it a little bit tougher to cut. That's all right. And I'm going to go ahead and continue cutting this up, and I'll be right back. Okay, just moved on over to my cleaver. So the cleaver will do a heck of a lot better job cutting this. And all we're going to do is basically just cut this up so we can go ahead and begin rendering it. So this is the beginnings of the stew. We're going to be starting with rendered bacon. That's going to be the bacon lard that we're going to be working with in this recipe. So let me go ahead and finish this up. As you can see, just cutting this up. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to get rendered out anyway. And we got a whole lot more chopping to do. Go ahead and prepare for this dish. Okay, so now we got the bacon, all that cut up and rendered. We're going to be moving over to the stove top in just a moment. But I want to go ahead and start doing one more thing, is that with this Hungarian goulash, we're going to go ahead and start grinding up some of our spices. So I got marjoram leaves, I got salt, I've got caraway, cumin. And we're going to go and grind this up in the mortar pestle. So it's going to be very fresh, very earthy flavors going into this. Okay, so you can see where I have all my seasonings. Everything is ground up. Fresh cloves, marjoram, caraway seeds. We got a lot of good flavors packed in there. The recipe, all the ingredients are on the recipe when I put it up onto the blog on my website. The other thing I haven't put into this is the paprika. We'll put that in later. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and check to make sure the Dutch oven is hot enough, and we're looking at about 450 degrees on my infrared. So we go ahead and add in the rendered bacon. This is going to be one of the few times that you're going to actually see me not do all my prep in advance. You know me, I'm all about doing my prep first, getting everything chopped, cut, diced, and out of the way, then actually start doing our cooking. This is actually going to be one of the few times that I'm not going to be doing that. But you want to go ahead and get this bacon heated up. We're going to go ahead and get this started up. I'm going to reduce the heat down a little bit. Now remember, when you do this, come back and check every few minutes on your bacon. Make sure you don't burn it. Okay, now that we've got the bacon in the Dutch oven, start to go ahead and render down. So we got that process start. So on the Hungarian goulash, you want to use a good cut of meat. So I'm actually doing a beef shoulder. It's got some good marbling in it. As you can see, it's got some good marbling. And all this is going to render down. But what you want to do with this is you want to cut it into 1 to 2 inch pieces. And that's going to be pretty easy to do. And this is about a 3-pound roast that I'm going to be cutting up. And to go into our Hungarian goulash. I like that name. Isn't that a cool name to use? Hungarian goulash. Especially where I'm at. No, we just had a snowfall last night. So we've actually got snow on the ground right now. So this is actually going to work out well. You can see I'm cutting this up into about 1 to 2 inch pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this up, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see right now that I do have it all cut up to about 1 to 2 inch pieces. So we're going ahead and set this aside while we're working on rendering the bacon that I just checked. I'll be moving back over to that, and that is beginning to render down very nicely. And I'll be back. Okay, I've been checking the bacon, and it looks like it is about time that we can go ahead and remove the bacon lardons, because we're going to use the lardons later, and we want to go ahead and use that bacon fat for our meat. So we go ahead and do the meat. And I just gotta go and find me a spoon. Pull all this out with. Okay, there we go. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and pull this on out. And then once we get this pulled out, we're going to set it to the side because we're going to use it later. So this is going to actually one of the few times that I'm doing part of my prep now and I'm doing part of it later. I've turned the heat down on this because right now I'm getting ready to add in the beef that we done chopped up for our Hungarian goulash. That's a cool name, don't you think? Hungarian goulash. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be switching over from my spoon to my tongs for this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this meat and we're going to crank the heat back up because we want to go ahead and remove the moisture out of this meat. So we go ahead and start caramelizing it for this. So it's all about developing flavor as we go through this. Okay, now it's starting to settle down a little bit. Let me go ahead and grab my tongs. Move this around a little bit. And we're going to continue working on this until we have all the moisture from the meat removed. We're starting to get a nice caramel crust on the outside of the meat. That's called the Maillard action. That's where all your flavor and everything starts coming back in at. So when I get to that point, I'll be coming right on back and we'll continue from there. Okay, as I'm looking at it, it looks like right now the meat, as you can see, we are now getting a nice caramelization onto it. So we're going to go ahead and pull this meat. We're going to go ahead and set it aside, and we're going to come back and we're going to put it back in later because we still have some more to do. I'm going to go ahead and drain a little bit of this bacon fat because I still want to have some of it in here, but I don't want to have all of it in. The next step we're going to go into with this is, now that we got the bacon rendered, we've got the meat caramelized, we can go ahead and do the onions. They're going to be the next ones that we're going to be bringing back in because, like I said, this is all about building flavor. So we have the bacon that's giving us flavor. We've got caramelized the meat that's giving us flavor. So the next step is going to go ahead and bring in the onions. We're going to go ahead and caramelize those down and then continue to build flavor. So I'll be right back. Now I'm going to be having in the onions. We're going to go ahead and let those render down. Start go ahead and building up a little bit of that flavor. And go ahead and get them nice and sweet. Now that we've got the sweet onions put in, I'm going to go ahead and add in leeks. With a Hungarian goulash, you want to have equal parts of volume of meat to your onions. So I have your sweet onions, and I also have leeks, which are giving me two types of flavors to go ahead and build on top of. As we're developing these layers of flavors, you see right now I'm getting ready to add in celery. We're just, as we were talking about earlier, what I'm doing is I'm extracting all the flavors out of one ingredient, then I'm going to another ingredient, and then I'm going to another ingredient. This right now, we're extracting all the flavors out of the celery before we move on to the next one. Now that we've got the onions all rendered down, so we're going to be putting in our tomato product. This is fresh tomatoes I've diced up. I've actually got 3 of these tomatoes in here, and this is going to be our tomato base. So I'm actually going to be sauteing these tomatoes down. Again, extracting all the flavors I can out of these before we move to the next step. Here I'm going to claim a little oops. Basically, I had messed up my video footage. What I've added in is the beef into this. And right now I have the tomato product. I have the beef. We're all going to stew everything down. Right now, as you see, I'm stirring it up. And I'm also scraping the bottom of that pan, pulling all that font that's on the bottom. Again, that's flavor. Now go ahead and in the broth. So we're actually starting to build the base of the soup up right now, the stew. It's going to be an amazing, amazing new flavors that we have built up out of this. Now, as I'm stirring this, I'm going to go ahead and mixing everything up, scraping the bottom of the pot. I'm also going to add in a couple of bay leaves, so we'll go ahead and start getting this simmering. We've had this stew simmering for about 90 minutes. Now we're going to be adding in the vegetables, which I have carrots, potatoes, and some mushrooms that we're going to be adding into this.
Now this has been simmering for 90 minutes, so the meat is getting very tender. The stew is starting to thicken up a little bit. Now that we're going to add the vegetables in here, we're going to go ahead and continue simmering this covered for another 30-45 minutes. I think I went ahead and did 45 minutes on this. This amazing stew has been simmering for about 3 hours. We have now have it thickened out. The vegetables of it have now softened. The carrots, potatoes, the meat, meat is amazingly tender. If you feel your stew is a little bit on the thin side, you can go ahead and add some tomato paste, or you can make a cornstarch slurry, which is equal parts of cornstarch and flour mixed in cold water. So it'll help thicken that part up.
Now this is Hungarian goulash, authentic Hungarian goulash, and we've built up on so many levels of flavor. We started there with the bacon, bringing that down, rendering it down. Then we went and got the meat, and we kind of got that all done. And then we just kept building up with the onions, and we built the broth. Now we have got the Hungarian goulash, authentic Hungarian goulash. So here's the moment of truth. The taste testing. And this is the part I actually look forward to. Look how thick that is. Oh, yes. Oh, and the flavors are so deep, so rich, so complex. This is really, really good. So if you like what you see, go ahead and click on the bell. Go ahead and subscribe. Click on the bell. And go ahead and go to my website when I have this put up. Download the recipe and go ahead and try it for yourself. But in the meantime, my sous chefs and I, we're going, after a day like we've had with snow, we're going to go ahead and enjoy this. And again, my foodie friends, thank you for watching, and until we meet again.